Hello, Internet! Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. This time, I am joined by special guest, Giant Bomb moderator, Chris ZombiePie Redacted. Hello.
Hello.
And that excited voice means we are talking about Final Fantasy bets again. How's it going? You know what that sound means?
I'm playing a Final Fantasy game.
That you've been playing Final Fantasy games for a whole year. A year
I've been
ago,
playing...
I told you about the story of Final Fantasy VIII, and then we engaged in a long bet that was stupid. I played Myst.
Really dumb.
You played Final Fantasy VIII.
I came out for the worst. I should have done something better than Myst, because in reality, I committed myself to more than you. You didn't hold up your end of the bargain.
I did too.
I should have held you up to a higher standard. I didn't know what I was playing. You said it was a short game, and then I was like, oh, this is 70 hours of my life gone forever.
To be fair, I can beat that game in like 14 hours.
Yeah.
And most people beat it in like 40. And you lost your save, and I played half of the game for you to get you back to where you were.
You did.
So
I thought I was out. We've talked about this before, but when my saves got bye-bye, I honestly thought we were all good in the hood.
And then also cloud saves exist, so that pissed me off a little bit. But that was in the past. In the present, you're playing Final Fantasy VII first for the Giant Bomb Community Endurance Run. We had people donate to condemn you to playing one Final Fantasy game, or all of them, depending on how...
All of the ones that I've owned, which we've talked about.
Which are almost all of them now.
Almost all of them.
But
now 10 is on Steam, so that's going to be a little chestnut I got to crack and roast.
10 and 10 too?
Don't remind me. I saw a little bit of that endurance run. I don't want to talk about it. Let's keep it on topic.
Okay. So people, I guess thankfully, they donated, and most of the money was donated towards Final Fantasy VII, which...
$200 to Final Fantasy VII. Like, I was able to raise a surprising amount of money for Final Fantasy.
I know, and it was people that were not, like, your friends and family, which is
No. Good. I never told my parents about this. I was so ashamed that, hey, Mom, I'm going to play, like, a Final Fantasy game for 24 hours of my life. Do you want to support me? I knew they would laugh.
Well... We did it. We did raise a good amount of money, and you played that game on stream on Giant Bomb Chat for quite a while.
And I horribly underestimated how long Final Fantasy VII was.
Yes.
I only played about 15 hours of it, and a lot of it was spent, how do I navigate through this screen? And going in the wrong directions.
Yep.
Go
I
west.
remember you sent me a Steam message like, oh my god, I need to find... clothes to get into Don Corneo's mansion. What do I even do? And I had to find my guidebook to give you directions to get you back on track.
God.
So I guess we should start at the beginning. What did you what do you think of Final Fantasy VII right now? What do you think's going on?
Right now, my impressions of Final Fantasy VII are it has a lot of heart. And a great deal of care and intention went into crafting Final Fantasy VII. But there are entire parts to Final Fantasy VII that do not translate to today. Now, admittedly, it is an old game. It is over 10 years old. Expecting it to translate well into a modern setting or playing it now, there were always going to be bumps and bruises. And I recognize that. But my perspective going into Final Fantasy VII and my impressions of it are certainly with different colored glasses than anyone who has any nostalgia for it. The same thing when I played Final Fantasy VIII. I went into 8 with zero nostalgia. And I came out
with all the nostalgia.
Kind of nostalgia. There are parts to 7 that are really good. There are real, legitimately good moments in Final Fantasy VII that hold up and still stand the test of time. And then there's a lot of crap.
Yep.
There's a
right.
lot of weird stuff in this game that makes no narrative sense, and part of it, I think, is a reflection of Final Fantasy VII being a massive risk. And you know what? Here's the thing. Props to Square Enix and all those involved in Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was probably a huge risk for them.
Oh, it was a huge risk.
2D to 3D, and maybe I don't appreciate all of the history, but
yeah,
Final Fantasy VII was a huge risk.
If I want to, I can fill in a little bit of the history. So Final Fantasy VII was originally going to be made for the Nintendo 64. And the reason why it moved over to the Sony PlayStation was, I believe, the cartridges that they would have needed to meet this vision were just too prohibitively expensive, or they were not big enough for Final Fantasy VII. And so CD technology was so essential that they essentially jumped ships. They moved from Nintendo to Sony just because of the physical media that the game was going to be served up on. It's a 3-disc game.
So it would have been like 7 cartridges.
Yeah, and also the N64, I don't know if like the graphical fidelity would have been there.
Graphical fidelity of the N64 is inferior to the PlayStation 1.
Yes. So that's why they moved over. I think it benefited the game. It definitely sold a lot of PlayStations.
And I was a Nintendo kid, so instead of playing Final Fantasy VII, I was playing Quest 64.
Oh, no.
I played a lot of Quest 64.
Is it a JRPG?
It's a horrible trash fire.
So, yes?
Skies of Arcadia came on the N64. I heard that's
a good game.
I never played it.
I haven't either, but I've heard nothing but good things.
Anyway, so Final Fantasy VII, my impressions are I really respect it for being the massive risk and
graphically at the time, it's worth mentioning, graphically it nothing compared to Final Fantasy VII when it came out.
There are parts of 7 that are still beautiful.
Yep, the beginning.
The very beginning, when it starts with the image of zooming in on Eris and it pans out to the city shot of Midgar, it does a great way of creating a sense of place without a single line of dialogue. And that is not an easy task. I feel like the introductory, going back into it, like bit by bit and piece by piece, Final Fantasy VII has probably one of the most effective and emotionally moving introductory sequences in all of video games. You just end up kind of zooming in from Eris, pulling out, showing the ominous monolith that is the Shinra headquarters, and then it pulls out and the logo shoots over the backdrop of Midgar. It's such a kind of breathtaking experience. And it's a really good starting point.
Better than the opera on the beach?
Well, the problem that I had with the opera and the beach is there's no real context, and it doesn't create a sense of context, whereas the very introductory sequence of Final Fantasy VII is there to create context. This is where you're at. This is what you're going to be exploring. So it's perfect in that regard.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VIII's opening is more of a...
You're not really able to piece it together until the very end of the game.
It's almost cobbling together cutscenes from later in the game. It's more of a trailer than it is a
Wait, are you counting the weird, like, black and white introductory credits?
No, the introductory credits is just, they're still images of the characters just kind of posing, looking badass. The intro, like, they show, there's a segment where, like, Ida is walking through a door, or Renoa is in a field of flowers, and a lot of those are sequences that will play later in the game. The only thing that's modern, I think, or, like, present moment, is Squall fighting Cypher, and then the beach.
Sure. And going from that immediately to the gameplay kind of highlighted one of my first real nitpicks with the game, which is the transitions in this game are very jarring.
Yeah.
Admittedly, they are a reflection of the technical limitations of the time. 1999, 98. So that means
Final
this
Fantasy
game...
VII, I think, was 97.
So, yeah, man, I mean...
It's almost 20 years old.
Yeah, when the game transitions from its CG cutscenes to the actual Cloud is now navigating through the two-dimensional backdrops, which some are easier to navigate through than others. There are some that are unintelligible to today, and I would say from the input that I got from my first blog, were unintelligible and very difficult to parse through back in the day. So you have this great introductory cutscene, and then there's a train, and you hop out of the train, and then it's this rather blurry, slightly of a mess. When you finally gain control, it's a real stark juxtaposition to the gameplay. Again, It's a technical limitation, but it's one that if you try to play this game right now, it's going to be something you pick up almost immediately.
Yeah, and there's a hodgepodge of styles in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, and the styles of the CG cutscenes and the style of the actual gameplay, they already kind of conflict sometimes. And then there's this big issue that I have with Final Fantasy VII, which is there are entire areas of Final Fantasy VII that thematically are so different and alien to one another that it's a real hot and cold feeling going from a desolate wasteland to the neon-drenched wonderland of the Golden Saucer. The depressing backdrop of Midgard is immediately complemented with the Chocobo Farm, where we're watching chocobos dance around and having fun. So the juxtaposing of scenes and moments is really one of my biggest problems with Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, it's more of a hodgepodge of ideas than it is a cohesive world.
But when Final Fantasy is able to bring all of its parts together, I feel like it's a masterpiece. And you can see the vision. And there are more moments where it's like, oh, that's really touching. This game has heart. I feel like I've had more revelatory experiences with 7 than I did with 8. There were only 4 or 5 really great, awesome scenes where all of the pieces come together. And I feel like in the first half of Disc 1, Final Fantasy VII has had the same number of completely effective and what I would call perfect scenes.
Fair enough. I'll give it that.
Now, admittedly, this is only the first half of Disc 1, so this game can completely crap its pants by the end, and I've been kind of warned that it maybe does. So getting back to the game, there's another kind of thematic... There's a lot of thematic weirdness to this game, and it's not just narratively speaking, it's thematic, it's cohesive, it's stylistic, it's direction. And there's one big thing that we're kind of dancing around. Well, there's actually two big things.
Which ones?
Okay. First off, translation. It's bad.
It's real bad.
It's a real bad translation job. The subtitles, the way that the translation for some of the characters has been done is bad.
There are just some parts where the grammar is wrong.
The grammar is wrong. And then we have the rather tricky task of trying to talk about Barrett. Yep. Which I don't know if we want to talk about that now or if we want to talk about that later.
The translation, I guess one thing that I'd want to ask first is, before we get into the deep characterization and all the different environments, what do you think of the combat in 7?
It's a much more straightforward affair.
Yeah, because I know that 8... I needed to basically handhold you through 8 to get you to understand
and admittedly, the weirdest thing about 8 is if you don't grasp the junction system, you are not going to have a good time.
Yes.
And if you don't understand the drawing system, you are going to be drawing a bunch of crap, and you're going to be wasting your time, and you're not going to have a fun time. I've been kind of messing around, dicking around with the materia system, and it hasn't really backfired on me.
Yeah,
it's easier to wrap my mind around the materia system. Now, admittedly, I've made plenty of mistakes, but it hasn't seriously curtailed my efforts to progress through the story.
Yeah, the highs are not as high with the materia system, and the lows are not as low for the most part.
But I'll say this, I've died a lot more in Final Fantasy VII than I did in 8.
Yeah, because in 8, I made it so that it's almost impossible for you to die. Given the setup I gave
there's another thing that we need to go through. I don't have a Sherpa this time.
Not as much. I can help a little bit.
You can help a little bit, but I'm basically au contraire. Like, I'm in the natural, playing this game for the first time, trying to parse it through myself. I've been asking for input. Of course, recently I asked, hey guys, what kind of side quests should I do? And then I got a different answer from every single person, and it's like, oh, why did I ask in the first place?
Yeah, but I mean, the big reason that you don't need a Sherpa as much is, like you said, the systems in Final Fantasy VII are just a lot more straightforward. And in 8, if you don't get set up properly...
At the very
beginning, you'll have a terrible time, and I wanted you to move through the game relatively briskly.
And absorb the atmosphere.
Because it's so counterintuitive. Like, if you had just grinded or played the game like a regular RPG, you would have had a bad time, in all likelihood.
Now, admittedly, what this does mean is that I'm now subjecting myself to more traditional JRPG tropes and mechanics, such as grinding and random encounters.
How are you liking them?
God, the random encounters are soul-crushing in this game. Holy crap. They happen in such a high frequency. It's... A lot of people talk about how the random encounters are just kind of a product of their time, and I'm willing to accept that, but you will literally, in certain areas, take 3 or 4 steps, and then there's a random encounter. And the weird thing is that these random encounters... I mean, some of them are easy, but oftentimes there's a real sense of dread whenever a random encounter happens. It's like, crap, I forgot to use an ether. Oh, no, now I have to use I'm running low on MP. Oh, God, someone's in the yellow already. I got no one with limit breaks. And, oh, yeah, the limit break system here is kind of more intuitive. You just take damage, and it's more straightforward, and the limit breaks are less broken than 8, because the limit breaks essentially break the game in 8.
Yeah, in 8, you can just keep limit breaking over and over and over again, and it gets to the point where you almost never use regular attacks. You use limit breaking constantly. Whereas 7, you take damage, and then your meter fills, and you use it, and it's done.
Yeah. I mean, it's a much more straightforward game. But admittedly, I say this... having not played 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. So if you went from those games to 7, maybe 7 is not a straightforward experience?
It's pretty... So as someone who has played all the games except some of the 13, spin-offs...
Haha, I have those too.
You do. 7... So the jump from 6 to 7, there's definitely a jump. 6... was one of the first games where stuff like classes stopped mattering. Like, the class system was huge in 5. In 4, it was very rigid. 3, it came up with the class system. 1, you picked a class at the beginning of the game. In 2, there were no classes. Your characters just kind of had stats.
That's the one where you basically just punch yourself in the face in order to beat the game.
That was a game where you got stats the more you used whatever that statistic governed. So if you got hit, your defense and your health would go up. If you attacked, your strength would go up. So that was a really weird game, experimental, and its systems kind of died with good reason. 3 invented the job system, but it was pretty rigid. You couldn't do a lot of experimenting. 4, there were more jobs, and each character started with a predetermined job. And so they kind of grew within that archetype, and maybe there was a little bit of changing, and in the re-release on the DS, they allowed you a little bit of customization that you didn't have before. 5 basically perfected the job system as far as I'm concerned in the mainline, early series. Your characters could pick different jobs, and you would unlock more jobs as you got throughout the game, but as you leveled up within a specific job type, you would unlock permanent copies of abilities, and so you could hybridize your jobs. So, if you got to be a level 10 Geomancer, you would be able to have level 10 Geomancer magic, and you could also be a summoner. So you got a little bit of cross-pollination, and that allowed you to do crazy stuff like a ninja would get the ability to use a weapon in each hand, and then maybe a knight is capable of using a broadsword, and a ninja can't, so you can have a knight that dual wields broadswords.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Then 6, there was a job. Every character had their own predetermined job, but you got these summons that would unlock. That's how magic was unlocked if a character didn't have inherent magic, and that's similar to the materia system of 7. Like, you give someone this summon, and it would give them...
And you have to level
spells.
up those abilities.
Those summons, yeah.
Okay,
and
sure.
so most characters start with no ability to use magic, and then once you get summons, they get the ability to use magic. But they have their own specific ability. Like, the main character is a thief, so he has steal.
Oh, okay.
Or, like, this character is a Moogle, so it has a special Moogle ability. Then in 7, you get Materia, where every character is basically a blank slate, and the only thing that's different about them is whether they have a ranged attack or a close-up attack, what their limit breaks are, and that's it.
I've heard people say that, this character starts with a higher level of dexterity, this character starts with a higher level of magic, this character... Cloud is basically the tabula rasa. He can essentially morph or become or serve any role.
Yes, and there are slight differences between the characters in terms of their stats, but because the materia is such a big component in what they become and how effective these characters are, I find that materia... I found, at least for me, whether a character can stand in the front row or the back row and what their limit breaks are. Essentially, by their limit breaks, that's kind of a shorthand for what kind of damage can they do in a real fight that matters.
And here's the problem that I have. The game doesn't surface a lot of this information. I don't know, unless I look it up. I really don't have the best idea who should be in the front row or back row.
So the way you determine that is whether the person has a thrown weapon or a gun, or if they have a melee weapon. If
the game never said that.
It's front row.
The game never said that. So yes, Barrett is supposed to be in the back row.
Yep.
Never did explain that, if they carry a gun or some sort of ranged attack, they should be in the back row. If they're throwing something, they should be in the back row.
Even worse, the game starts with Barrett in the front row.
Yep.
And there's no... It's actually disadvantageous for him to be in the front.
And there's this very... I would say the actual bombing the reactor scene is pretty awesome.
Yep.
That's a really good scene. Like, you got to blow the reactor. It's really fast. It's bit by bit, piece by piece. Guess what? They don't bother to explain how the materia system works until after the sequence is done.
Yep, they don't even unlock the ability to equip materia until after it's done.
And you still have all these magic commands that have been given to... You can cast magic and use items, but you don't know how to use any of that, or why you would use any of that, or what any of this is used for. There's no explanation what the limit meter was. Of course, it just pops up, and it's like, oh, hey, I guess I should select that.
It takes away your ability to attack.
It's a really good scene. I really liked bombing the reactor in the very beginning. The music is awesome. And in fact, the music in 7 is great.
Yep.
The music is just... There's a variety to it. There's a life to it. Almost always the music fits the scenes.
Nobuo Uematsu is really good.
Is a master of knowing the sense of place and creating a sense of place. When that Eris theme starts playing, it's like, oh no, something bad's going to happen to a character, or we're going to learn about some heavy shit coming up. And it's so good. The music is so good. But again, there's no real scaffold. There's no scaffolding for the player. You just assume, oh, well, of course, this is the first scene. I probably can just hit things with my sword over and over again. Mm-hmm. And...
Yeah, 8 tries to tutorialize you, but
but there's so much tutorializing, and it's so dense and complex, and the tutorial in 7 is not good. It's a secret room that you have to deliberately go out of your way to find, but...
And it's full of dudes that just tell you
stuff over text, but 8... We can't praise 8 for having a good tutorial.
No, it doesn't. I'm not praising it. I'm just saying at least the tutorial's on the main beaten path.
At least everything in 7... Admittedly, you have to talk to a dude, and Cloud's like, well, I know about that. It's like, oh, great. Mm-hmm. Cloud, you knew everything else and didn't bother to tell me. Awesome. But there are entire mechanics in 8 that aren't even explained or addressed in the game.
That's true.
At least everything in 7 is basically found in that room.
That save point talks to you.
The save point talks to you, and then the treasure box is like, I've got some cool stuff. Open me up whenever you see me. It's like, treasure box. The problem I have with that is you're usually obscured and require me to explore the environments more than I want. I just want to get in, get out, and get on with my life. And usually you only have ether. Well,
if it's good enough for Nas, it's good enough for you.
But no, so are we going to go back to... No, wait,
Yeah,
there's one more thing that we need to
Okay.
talk about that I have a serious issue with. I am playing this with the keyboard controls.
Oh no. Do you want to... What is the keyboard control that you like the least?
There's so many minigames in 7 that the fact that the keyboard controls are garbage for the PC Steam version. Someone actually linked me to the very first PC version of Final Fantasy VII where everything was located on the number pad.
Yep.
Which, that's not great, but at least it's not spread out like the current one on Steam. Okay, so the OK button, was that square or circle?
It was circle.
Okay, so here's the biggest problem that I have with the prompts. Whenever you have a mini game or an activity that requires you to quickly switch between all the keyboard inputs, it says OK, cancel, menu. It doesn't say XCV, like it would say circle, square, X.
Yep.
So I have to be start, insert, start, switch, switch is insert, assist. What's assist? Assist is delete? What the fuck? So, OK is X, cancel is C, menu is V. Simple, right? And then you use the arrow pad or the arrow keys to move around, not WASD.
That's
not
fine.
WASD, even though the WASD keys are right above your major inputs of X, C, and B. Fine, whatever. I can deal with that. Start is B. The start button is B.
Okay. That's after V. That's reasonable.
Okay. The switch button is the insert key.
What does that do?
The switch button means if you need to switch between
Parties?
or basically when there's a cutscene and hey buddy, do you want to switch materials around from one person to the other? You have to hit that button. And when it says switch, if you hit menu, OK, or cancel, oftentimes it will play the next scene and then you will have no materia.
That's good.
So insert. Also, the insert key is a huge input for the motorcycle sequence, which we will talk about in a little bit. Page up and page down, those buttons are the buttons that you use to break the chocobo race. They are L1 and L2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only time I've ever used those, other than maybe using the chocobo stuff. Target, the target button, targeting stuff, changing your target is the end key. So right there, end. The assist button is the delete button.
What is the assist button? What does that mean?
It changes usually the camera perspective. Or no, not the camera perspective. It's the button you press to change from automatic to manual when you're riding a chocobo.
Okay.
And then changing the camera is the home key. If you don't know where the home key is, it's on the number pad right next to end. So
that's a gnarled mess. That's all over the place.
These are the same controls for 8, relatively the same controls. Actually, I think they're exactly the same controls, other than some of these prompts are just changed the name on them.
That makes sense. 7 and 8 were the two games that came out on PC, and they were both released about a year apart. So
okay. So thank you for letting me go with the diatribe. Let's go over the story parts of the game that I've gone through. So we've already talked about the very introductory sequence.
Did you want to talk about Barrett's voice?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Barrett. Translation for Barrett is bad. It makes me feel bad. The biggest problem that I have with Barrett is that it's someone's idea of what African Americans talked like during the 90s. And let me tell you, I lived in Hayward, which is not too far from Oakland. I ain't never seen someone talk like that. So they made their own version of slang based off of their own experiences or interpretations of real-life slang. And one, it's kind of off-putting. No, it is off-putting. I personally find it off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
2, it's counterintuitive to his character. I mentioned this on the blog, and some people called me out on it by saying, well, are you saying that someone from any background or someone with any accent can't be the leader of an organization? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it would serve his character if Barrett was just a normal dude with a normal translation job that was articulate because he's a leader of an organization, that was able to contextualize his thoughts like a normal human being. And there's some parts of the translation that, yeah, I do think are offensive. The depiction of Barrett as having a penchant for swearing, maybe that was in the Japanese version, but some of it seems really out of place. He postures himself in a way that is off-putting, to me at least. I don't know if you agree or not.
Well, my biggest problem with Barrett's translation in particular is that there is no one else in the entire world who speaks like Barrett.
Which is like what I was talking about.
Yeah.
No one talks like Barrett. If you wanted to have him speak Ebonics, you did a damn terrible job, whoever was responsible for this.
You know what? If it's because he's from Coral, and that's the way people from Coral speak.
No one talks like that in Coral.
No one talks like that in Coral. No one talks like that anywhere else in the world other than Barrett, which... If people want to say,
have him have
they're
a
trying
southern
to give
accent,
him flavor,
basically, yeah, have him have a southern accent or a known linguistic,
or ground it in the world, like anywhere else. That's all you have to do, and I'll be like, okay, that's the way people speak from where he's from, or hey, there's another person who has this manner of speaking, and it just doesn't exist. And then
no, it doesn't.
The only explanation you have is, well, they wanted to make him sound like Mr. T.
Yeah, basically.
Except for when they need him to say stuff that's story relevant, in which case
he goes back to speaking in prose.
Yeah, he
speaks
speaks
completely
differently.
Which is a real weird thing.
Like when he needs to espouse actual exposition, then he speaks like every other character most of the time. It's really jarring. I agree that it's kind of off-putting. It makes you take him not as seriously as...
And there are times where the game really wants you to take Barrett seriously, and if you turn off or ignore the previous scenes, you're able to appreciate Barrett. I think that his character moment in North Coral is a beautiful scene. I think that moment is one of the best moments I've seen thus far in the game.
Yeah, when you learn about why his daughter is his daughter, it's really effective.
It's a really touching experience. If I weren't able to disregard all of this stuff in this translation, that wouldn't have mattered. I would have been disinterested completely about it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that the remake of Final Fantasy VII is going to offer them a do-over on.
And there are some apologists for the translation. I've seen this. I've gotten some input on this. But there's another scene in this game where there are actually diehard apologists for, and I'm sorry, guys. No. We'll get to
you
that
mean
part.
the Don...
boy.
Are we going to get to that later?
We will get to that in a little bit, because there are a couple of things that I want to talk about. So, overall, you would agree that blowing up the reactor is a cool scene?
Yes, I think that is, if not the strongest moment in the game, it is up there. It is really cool. It is well done. You maybe fight 3 random battles. I actually have started playing this game again in preparation for... I always assumed we were going to do one podcast, but I thought it'd be better to break this up into several ones so we can get some predictions, and so it's not 3 hours of me drinking.
I think the one thing I would say that kind of ruins me on this scene is the fact that Barrett and his terrorist organization are wanting to poke Shinra in the eye, and they end up blowing this reactor, thus placing the lives of thousands, if not millions, of innocent civilians at risk. And later there's a scene where you actually see the carnage of the destruction of the reactor, and it's like, oh crap, are we really the good guys?
Not
and
really.
Then the game never really takes the time to pontificate on the consequences or externalities of their act.
No,
I think
yada
that
yada
slightly kind of ruins it.
Yeah, it yada yada's that, and it basically...
Shinra's evil. Here's another scene where Shinra's doing some really messed up stuff, which is usually its response to when it's caught in a paradox or kind of
a nonsensical situation
itself is, let's depict Shinra as doing some really bad shit. And admittedly, Shinra does some bad shit.
They make sure that you feel justified, that Avalanche's actions feel justified, but they really gloss over any of the ramifications of what they're they are a terrorist organization. Their actions have consequences for not just themselves,
but the
for
game
people
never
who
takes
see
the time to pontificate on
and it doesn't care to explore it. It really doesn't.
And
it never will.
Then the next kind of major thing that I was noticing is I think I like Cloud as a character more than Squall.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Okay, but thus far, Cloud has a character art that I can follow.
Sure.
Now, everyone says, okay, yeah, sure, wait until Disc 2. But, right now, he's an easier to understand character than Squall.
Yeah, he's far less of a... He's aloof.
He's aloof, but you get
like
the sense
Squall.
that he's got some, like, he's a soldier, he's someone from the military, he's got some post-traumatic stress disorder, he's gas-lit up the wazoo. And I would say the problem that I have with Cloud's characterization is less of an issue than what I had with Squall. Because Squall was a walking human train wreck, and it made no sense that anyone liked him or viewed him as a friend, and all of his friendships were unwarranted or unearned. Cloud actually does stuff to warrant people siding with him or believing that he's a good leader.
Yeah. He actually leads.
He leads, and he's characterized as a former member of Shinra, thus he has experience in being a leader or understanding how to command.
And he's a member of Soldier, and if at this point you haven't... Do you have a feeling of what Soldier is?
Soldiers are a bunch of super soldiers.
Yeah, basically.
They got the Mako injected into their bloodstream.
Yep.
And if you find out about how you were born, you'll turn into Sephiroth.
Potentially.
The problem that I have is that the game kind of oscillates between three types of characterization for Cloud. Characterization number 1 is the aloof kind of war veteran. Characterization number 2 is the bubbly kind of I called him the Ero Flynn swashbuckler. he's like Jack Sparrow. And then the third one is let's just have him be the comic relief character.
There's also awkward teenage boy.
Oh, yeah. Anytime there's a romance scene, he's an awkward teenage boy. And sometimes those transitions happen in the same goddamn scene.
Yep. He'll be awesome. He'll be badass soldier man. And then someone...
I'm a swashbuckler. Oh, but I don't feel good about my life choices, and I don't understand who I really am. Hey, that's kind of funny, Tifa. Oh, fuck. And it's like, oh, God, no.
Orthopedic underwear.
Bop. You know, yeah, there's so many times where it's this game, you need to pick and choose when to put humor, and now is not the time for humor. Although 7 has a better idea of when it needs to have a quiet moment than 8, because in 8, we're going to have a quiet moment where we're playing a concert in this weird hippieville, whether you want it or it feels appropriate or not. In 7, it's usually, oh God, we went through some shit, let's just take a break. Oh, God. And it's like, guys, we took a break 2 hours ago. No. God damn it.
Yeah.
I've become increasingly frustrating with how many times the character's like, let's take a break before continuing. It's like the last scene was a break. You said it was a break. Now we're taking another one?
Yeah, not Nibelheim. What is the...
Cosmo Canyon.
Well, there's Cosmo Canyon, but what is the one right after you get out of Midgar?
Casa de Sol. Oh, Casa de Sol.
No, Casa de Sol is later.
Golden Saucer.
Not the Golden Saucer. I think it's called...
Gongaga.
Not Gongaga. But yes, all of these towns, basically you roll in and there's not much going on, and you have like a scene
and
or
the characters are like, hey, let's just take a quick break here. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we fought the Turks. Oh, the Turks.
So, want to know a fun fact about the Turks?
Sure.
So, remember Raijin and Fujin? Or Raijin and Fujin?
I remember you saying this. They used to be members of the Turks, but there was like 8 of them.
Yeah, there were going to be another Shinra group, and so they got moved to Final Fantasy VIII. So, this game somehow was going to have more, like, crazy, zany villains.
Yeah. I
doesn't
like
lack for them.
some of the set pieces in Midgar. In fact, I think the slums are actually really cool set pieces. I think they were a pain in the ass to navigate in because your idea or perception of what is navigable and what is not isn't very clear. And in fact, I ended up turning on the assist button a couple of times. Oh, that's what the assist button does. It turns on the here's a door or not buttons or prompts.
Yep. And I think Midgar as a locale is just really fascinating.
It's a fascinating kind of, and they put in a lot of craft to make it like, oh, this is a slum. Oh yeah, this is kind of cool.
But did you understand like how Midgar was structured?
It's like a circle with plates, and if you're up top, you're a rich person, and if you're down below, you're a poor person.
Yeah, so the plates are suspended on these gigantic concrete pillars that the slums are basically shanty towns underneath these pillars because the plates, I guess they dug a deep hole to make Midgar, and so the plates are at ground level, but the slums are down beneath them.
So it's like Terrace in Knights of the Old Republic?
I have not played that game, so maybe?
I know that game like the back of my hand. Okay, sure, no problem.
But that's why when they threaten to blow up one of the pillars, what happens is the plate on top falls onto the
So the people on top also die?
I mean, maybe.
Sure. The game doesn't actually...
It doesn't say. I don't think so, because like they're falling... I don't know how far the fall is.
Yeah.
It definitely would damage everything above it. But I love the idea of this social structure.
Yeah.
And I know that
it's built into the structure of the building, and I think I finally figured that out.
You didn't enjoy the shitty pizza or whatever...
I didn't realize he was saying that, plate.
Yeah, because it's these plates that are on top of this
shitty pizza. Oh, okay, got it. They're the shitty piece.
So no, it's because on top, each of them are wedges around this circle that are on top of the slums, so it's kind of a pizza shape.
Okay, got it.
I actually found that to be a good way of describing it. That is one of the times where Barrett's accent, I thought, made a lot of sense.
And then you encounter Tifa.
Yeah, Tifa's weird.
I like Tifa.
She's nice.
I think
I
the
don't
game
know
could
why
do more with her.
I don't know why she has I mean, she's the girl next door character.
Why is she a cowgirl?
That's a great question.
Why is her bar called the Texas Cowboy Club?
It's Seventh Heaven. Seventh
Heaven with a sign that says Texas Cowboy Club?
Because this game has a lot of things
anachronisms. There are anachronisms up the wazoo. And then Barrett's a father. Barrett's a father. And he leaves his child to tend to the bar.
It's hard down there in the slums.
And Cloud is kind of an asshole to all of his friends in a way that's off-putting originally. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to take my money and go. It's like, wait, I'm your closest friend. Let's talk for a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, I want my money. It's like, why do you want your money, Cloud? It's like, is there a reason why he wants to get paid and leave? Is there a reason why he's treating Tifa like a dick in the very first 4 hours of the game?
Asking me to answer the question?
There's no answer to this question. I know that.
There is, but I'm not going to tell it to you.
Okay, cool. I mean, my theory was that like Cloud was looking for a MacGuffin, but then it turns out that was false. And then
I'm just going to say this. You are not prepared.
I'm not prepared. Okay, great. Cool. Tifa, I think you're cool. Her limit break is kind of a pain in the ass to pull off. Her
limit break's the best.
Her limit break, it stacks, but then I always end up at least once messing up her slots. I wish they were slower.
Yeah, so I advised you to have a part. So my party when I played was usually Cloud, Tifa, and Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because Tifa's limit breaks stack. So whenever she gets a limit break, you can conceivably...
So if she kills someone with her limit break, she then moves on to someone different. I found that out.
The next one.
Which is great. That's critical. Oh my god!
By the end of it, she can do 7 hits, which is a lot. Like each one of them does about as much damage as some other characters' earlier limit breaks. So until most characters unlock their final limit break, a lot of the final limit breaks hit multiple times, but until then, Tifa's limit break is one of the only ones that consistently hits multiple times.
I got to the part of my first blog where I'm explaining to everyone, hey guys, I've seen Advent Children, so I think I know the basic idea, and everyone said, no, you are so far off the mark. Flashbacks. We have our first flashback when Cloud is a little boy talking to Tifa about, I want to become a person in Soldier. My hero is Sephiroth. And here's my problem with that little quip, is that clearly Sephiroth is this giant hero, and then 10 hours later, Sephiroth is like this Cape Crusader running around, and people are like, some weird Cape guy with a 1 on his shoulders ran in here. Don't you realize that's Sephiroth? Don't you realize that's the person that we used to have posters for and was the golden boy of Shinra?
Have you gone to Nibelheim yet?
That is the next sequence.
Okay, so you're going to learn some things. Okay.
So here's what I wrote down on the blog, what I already knew from what I was able to glean from Advent Children. Number 1, Eris dies. I know, it's basically everyone knows she dies. She dies. It's the reason why I'm not using her in combat. It's the reason why I'm not buying her cool stuff.
Yep.
She dies. And when she dies, she dies. Sephiroth is evil.
Yep.
Cloud is sad.
Yep.
That's number 3. Number 4, Eris dies.
Okay.
Number 5, Shinra is evil.
That it is.
Number 6, Genova is an evil alien thing from the sky. That's the first 5 minutes of Advent Children.
Yeah. Yep.
Number 7, Sephiroth carries around Genova's disembodied head around with him all the time for reasons I don't know.
Yeah, you'll learn some stuff.
8, Eris dies. 9, Genova constantly gets parts of her body thrown around in the ground and they turn into these horrible monsters.
Yeah, that's really weird. I never understood that part.
10, you fight like Sephiroth and Genova a couple of times.
Yes.
11, Eris dies.
Those are all true statements.
12, there's an emerald and ruby weapon, and they're pains in the ass to beat.
They are probably the hardest bosses in Final Fantasy up until that point in the series.
13, Advent Children is a bad movie.
Yeah.
As a movie, it's a bad thing.
I mean, as a story, it's a bad thing.
As fan service, yeah, sure, it's good fan service, but as a 2-hour movie with a narrative, it's a bad thing.
You don't want the narrative part. The part where people are doing their limit breaks, and you're like, oh my god, that's what the limit break looks like. That's pretty...
Guess what my number 14 was?
Eris dies.
Yep. Okay, we got it. The materia system, the limit break system, they're easier for me to wrap my mind around. So eventually, everyone convinces Cloud to come back into this adventure, and it's not really clear as to what convinced him to come back. Was it the fact that he's being confronted by his childhood hero? Is it the fact that he's now developing a sense of, I have to do something to Shinra? I don't understand.
It was his love triangle with Eris and Tifa. I thought it was that.
And then you have the first kind of there was an initial gaslighting when you blew up the reactor, but then you have the first night. Well, when you go up to... Barrett asks Cloud to put the explosives onto the reactor because he wants to make sure that he actually does it, because if Barrett turns his back on Cloud, he still doesn't trust him, which actually makes sense in the grand scheme of things. And then he kind of passes out and he's like, the voices in my head are talking to me again. And it's like, oh, okay.
But the term gaslighting, that is not what it means.
He's got this pent-up trauma that's impacting his mental... He's being forced to confront
someone's
his
not
reality.
telling him that the thing that he thinks is not the...
Okay, fine. He experiences multiple neuroses.
Yes, that is certainly true. No one's trying to convince him of something that did happen did not happen.
Which does happen later.
No comment.
Okay. And then he starts experiencing some flashbacks like Tifa over the corpse of her father, and then those scenes are usually followed by goofy shit that doesn't quite make sense. It's like, oh, Tifa's crying. Oh, now I have to push some buttons in order to open a door.
Yep. It's a weird sequence.
It's a weird sequence. Shinra's evil.
Yep. They do nefarious stuff. That's all they do.
You know, coming back from 8, I just am glad to have right now. At least give me this now. It's nice to have a straightforward villain. Now, there's 4 villains here, but at least they're all straightforward. Shinra's doing stuff to find Mako. Hojo's just some crazy guy that likes to do experiments. And Sephiroth wants to find the Promised Land.
And he wants to kill dudes.
And wants to kill people and set villages on fire.
Have you gone to the Chocobo farm yet?
I went to it once.
Did you get a Chocobo?
No. Well, okay. I got a Chocobo in order to not get attacked by the Midgar Zolon.
Okay, did you see the Midgar Zolon impaled on a tree?
I did see that. I did not see the actual... Someone told me, you gotta fight the snake demon thing, and I tried that, and I got killed.
Yeah, it's got a move that you can get its enemy skill, and it's one of the stronger ones early in the game, but you need to not die, which is the hard
can't
part.
Do that. So far, it's not been easy for me to not die on the giant
I don't
snake demon.
know that it's worth it, but... I just love the scene where you find this giant snake impaled on a tree.
And it's like, fuck. This guy's strong.
Good. He's real good. He put a sword through the president of Shinra, and
he
just
left
blood.
It there? And so did that mean he had to go back and get it?
Does that mean he has more than one?
Does that mean he has more than one? We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves because... When you go to blow up the reactor, I also think the second reactor scene, as stupid it is that they try to do the same exact thing that they did with the first reactor, I actually think that the setup for the second reactor failure attempt is a pretty good scene. They basically have a trap sprung on him, and the president's like, you thought you could do this again? We got you. And then Cloud is like, guys, Barrett, take care of Tifa. Bye. And then he falls down.
Yep.
Now, admittedly, falling down and surviving that fall doesn't make any sense.
He fell onto a building and then flowers.
Right on flowers.
The most absorptive flowers you've ever seen.
I have to say this. All of the scenes between Cloud and Aeris are some of the most sentimental and touching moments in the game. I think Aeris is boring.
Yep. That was my appraisal. Like, it totally makes sense that they would be friendly. Even their relationship kind of makes sense.
They actually have some really touching and like humanistic quips with each other, like when they're teasing each other and like edging on each other. I think Aeris is boring.
That was my appraisal.
Naive. She's an environmentalist, and God, there's like 8 different environmentalist characters in this game. I like Cloud's quips of like, I'm just doing this for the money, asshole. I'm gonna take my money and go. The planet's dying. Who cares? I'm not
paid.
I'm gonna die before any of this happens. And it was like, blah 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 blah. It's like,
but no, I got paid.
Like Aeris and Cloud, when they are spending time at the church, they have some really touching, sentimental, emotional scenes that are really neat. And I mean, it makes sense that they would be friends, but as in terms of romances, they barely met each other. They don't have a history. I think it makes sense to just go with Tifa, and that's basically what I'm going with.
Also, she doesn't die.
She doesn't die. And, yeah, there's a sense of playful teasing between Aeris and Cloud that makes sense, and their rebukes, when they're uncomfortable, it feels natural and it's heartwarming.
So, after Midgar... Well, I guess you had a problem with the motorcycle scene. Should we talk about that scene?
Yeah, there were some other things, like finding out that... Well, okay. No, there's one thing I really need to talk about.
Oh, right, Wall Market.
No, yeah, there's Walmart. There's the Walmart. There's actually the really cool scene where Aeris's mom talks about, like, how she met her. That's a great scene. I'm just going to say it right now. When Aeris's mom is talking about how she met up with Aeris and adopted her, and then Aeris's theme starts playing, that's a great scene.
Aeris's theme is really good.
Aeris's theme is amazingly appropriate for a lot of the scenes that are there. So the first problem that we have, well, first off, getting to the wall market is a pain in the ass because there's this level with like the fallen robot hand and the construction set. It's a pain in the ass to go through that. That level sucks. That screen is terrible. You have to go up and down and around the corner, and then there's a fallen pillar that you need to jump on, but it doesn't look like a pillar. It looks like a poorly... Ugh, that screen. Screen with a robot hand. You know what I'm talking about?
I know the exact screen. I got lost on that screen as well.
Oh,
because you
my
can
God.
go up into a
Crane.
forklifters, a crane.
And you can
then,
go up and explore it, but it doesn't actually result in anything.
Yes, it doesn't lead anywhere.
And the robot hand doesn't do anything either.
Nope.
There's a bunch of dead ends, and it's such a bad, bad level. Oh my God. And then, yeah, that pillar that's fallen, you have to climb up it. It doesn't look like something you could climb up.
Nope.
And then if you really mess around, then those evil demon toy box monsters will...
I love the demon house.
Oh, God.
Devil house.
Okay.
Yeah, the monster designs in this game are really
weird. Did you fight the evil sign monsters where it's like basically stop?
Yes, I have fought the sign monsters and they shoot you with missiles. I've fought the evil house.
I've fought
They get
the
weird.
Russian babushka doll or the Russian...
Yeah.
Oh, God, those guys
Russian,
are a pain in the ass because
the
if you don't
nesting
get them
doll
quick,
monsters.
if you don't get those guys quick, you're in a lot of trouble. And then, like, sometimes there are those small enemies, like those mushrooms that shoot the seeds at you, but they attack real quick. They don't do a lot of damage, but they come in, like, 7 or 8. They can really mess you up quick.
Yeah. Final Fantasy VII has a weird monster design, but I love it.
The wall market. The wall market.
So what did you think of the wall market?
It's the worst.
It's really bad, right? I mean, I love the location as a...
Oh my God,
concept.
the location of the wall market, it's... The
Like the
wall
crazy
market
guns
itself,
dealer.
it's a really great red light district. Like, if they wanted to create a red light district, they did a great job.
Nailed it.
I mean, it was... And it's got a bunch of colorful characters. The coloring is great. The art design is great. You feel like you're in a sleazy place. And... to be honest, because of how crazy some of the characters were, it was one of the first places where I felt motivated to actually talk to all of the people.
Yeah, I love the sleazy arms dealer. I love the item dude. I love all the things that are happening in the bar.
Yeah, and you go to the restaurant and you talk to all the people there. The problem
Even the Honeybee Inn, like the people standing outside, like, I can't get into this adult club. What the hell, man?
The problem with the market is, wall market is, everything about it and everything that you do there is gross.
Is in service of getting Cloud into it.
Corneo mission is the worst. I think it's... Would you call this the lowest point of Final Fantasy VII?
No.
In the main story, is it the lowest point of the game?
Depends on how you define lowest.
Shittiness.
In what? So, remember how in Final Fantasy VIII you were like, there can't be anything worse than, like, the concert scene?
Yeah.
And then the ending happened?
Twice in my... Yeah.
And then it happens?
And then it kept happening over and over again.
Yeah, so...
That's gonna happen?
Stuff's gonna happen.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that you'll find more objectionable on a deep spiritual level.
Okay.
But I will say that it is probably the most upsetting on a moral level.
Okay, morally speaking.
It's close. There's another sequence that you might see that it is optional, so you might not see it. It depends on whether you do a certain side quest.
Okay.
That is as bad.
Okay.
But
so the Don Corneo mission's a bunch of bullshit, and it shouldn't be in this game. And people who think that this should not be removed in the
later
are it.
I wouldn't call them idiots, but I think they might be.
I wasn't going to say they're idiots. I think they're ill-founded. Like that.
Okay.
Their defense of Cloud's cross-dressing, it exists for the sake of being there, and they're defending it because it's a sequence from the game that maybe they found funny when they were 12.
It reminds me of a lot of the wacky hijinks that you would see in an anime around that time. Like, I'm sure Tenchi Muyo or something like that.
100%. It actually, this exact thing happened in Tenchi Muyo.
Sure.
So, fine. 90s stuff, I can accept it. The fact that it was... Actually, no. I'm going to say this, personally. It was wrong then and it's wrong now.
I agree. I'm just saying that is usually the argument that people make, is that is what
it existed in Japanese culture, and to be honest, Japan's depictions of homosexuality, transgenderism in mainstream media, it's not great.
Mm-mm.
And this is homosexuality, transgenderism from a 90s perspective, so of course it's not going to be great. I still decry it. I'm still going to decry going into the
gym
gym, and clearly it's a bunch of dudes that are of male persuasion.
Yeah, the idea that you go to a gym to find a bunch of gay guys so you can get a wig because they're all cross-dressers.
Because of course they're the cross-dresser.
Yeah,
in fact, I preferred to go there.
Yeah, they tell you, I think there are some more people like you at the gym.
And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Or when you go to the Honeybee Inn you go into the fuck room.
Okay, yeah. So, no, first off, I peeped in both of the other rooms, and that was a mistake.
President Shinra is into some shit.
President Shinra, I don't know if he's either a masochist that likes to get beat, or he likes to beat people up.
Neither one's great.
I'm not gonna... And then the other room is you just basically peep on an old couple basically fucking.
Yep.
Or post-coitus. And yeah, the room you go into is the fuck room. Is it the fuck room?
It's definitely the fuck room.
It's the fuck room.
It's a 4-letter word.
And then, what was it? The other room basically has Cloud go into a hot tub that gets populated by a bunch of gay dudes, gay bodybuilders, against his consent, right?
Pretty much, and it's
heavily
unclear
implied
whether he's getting massaged or if he's getting... It's nothing good. It's not good. And then I forget what happens in the fuck room.
The fuck room is the one where he has a neurosis and he gets basically a dude jumps on him and basically slaps him in the face until he wakes up. We have to address the fact of why this is happening. Cloud notices Tifa is off to the wall market because Tifa somehow found out that Cloud was in the wall market or in this certain area of the slums. Okay? Because he doesn't trust that Tifa has the ability to fight out of Don Corneo's mansion, despite the fact that she has established herself to be very competent in combat. He has to go rescue her.
Avalanche. She's in Avalanche. Like, she's a rough and tumble lady.
He automatically assumes that she is in danger. She is a damsel in distress.
And the only way to solve this problem is for him to cross-dress his way
not
into
sneak
Don
in,
Corneo's
not
mansion.
find a way or try and be a guard. It's to dress like a woman.
And it's not to... He was former soldier, right?
Yeah.
He's like elite special
Why
forces.
is it that we're okay with the idea of just storming the front door of the Shinra HQ, but we're not okay with storming the front door of Don Corneo's mansion?
It's a great question.
And then you go to Don Corneo's mansion, dude he makes me feel gross inside. He's got a torture dungeon.
Yeah, his torture dungeon's weirdly graphic.
There's a table that basically is like a sacrificial podium, and it's covered in blood.
It's got an outline of a person.
It's got, like, forceps and all these other things. And the way that Don Corneo talks is the worst. He refers to the women as chickies. He's, of course, picks Cloud because I got all the clothing items, including the panties.
Yeah.
And Don Corneo is gross. And then, of course, you have to realize that we just had this really touching moment with Eris where she's talking to Cloud and with her mother. And then, of course, that we failed to blow up the reactor, so there's going to be retaliation from Shinra. And we find out that basically the entire plate is going to be destroyed. And we have to remember, this is followed up with Don Corneo acting like a horn dog, and we have to dress Cloud up. It doesn't thematically make sense. It's thematically out of place.
And it's not even a break, really. It's not like there was a climax.
The biggest problem I have is you have to go to all these different places in the wall market and find out, oh, hey, do you have something for this outfit? No, you don't? Well, crap. Next building. Okay, over here. You got anything? Nope, the gun guy doesn't. So I'm having to go all over this place, picking up random stuff from people who rightfully shouldn't have any clothing items other than the tailor. And maybe if we want to accept the fact that the gym is filled with gay dudes, but I don't know.
It's not like the game has earned that comic relief moment yet. I don't
No.
think that the climax has happened to where you need some downtime.
And you have to realize we're about to see the climax of the very first part of the
segment.
game.
Yeah.
First segment of the game, and what do we have before it is this kooky, out-of-place comic relief scene.
Yeah, and like the segment in Calm where you have the flashbacks.
It's some
that
pretty
makes more
heavy
sense.
stuff. The Calm sequence, we'll get to it in a little bit, but man, the first depiction of the Nibelheim scene, it's goddamn amazing. And it's got the money shot of Sephiroth. Oh, it's so good. But Shinra, because we spent all this time dicking around in Don Corneo's mansion, Shinra is able to blow up the plates, obliterate the world, kill all these people. And admittedly, I think that there are some loopholes and plot holes here and there, but the actual spectacle of Shinra blowing up the plates is pretty great.
Yeah, and there are no plot holes, or as of yet, there are no plot holes as bad as like people hiding in a tank to avoid the missile base blowing up, and then how'd you get in there and why'd you
Those
attack
people,
us?
Jesse and Biggs, are dead. They are dead. They're not off hiding in the military. They are dead.
Yep.
And good on the game, Barrett, Tifa, and even to a certain extent Cloud all express a sense of regret and grief, and they have a motivation to get revenge on Shinra. It gives them a good, admittedly simple hook. And they have a reason to work together. They have a reason to be together.
They already didn't like Shinra.
They already didn't like Shinra, and it doesn't hurt that they also kidnapped Eris, who originally I called her a damsel in distress in this certain circumstance, but I feel like the reason why she got kidnapped is actually clever and fits her character, trying to transport Marlene and being willing to sacrifice herself for the safety of another person. I think that actually does fit her character to a certain extent.
Sure. I mean, it's just a little odd that you have the damsel in distress sequence with Tifa, and then you have the damsel in distress sequence with Eris.
I think the one with Eris is fine. The one with Tifa is unwarranted and unnecessary.
I think it's just that, so as the game goes on, I'm trying to think back, there will be another damsel in distress sequence with another female character.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck that!
There are 3 female characters in the game, right? There's Yuffie, Eris, and
Son
Tifa.
of a bitch.
All 3 of them.
Fuck.
Get damseled at one point or another.
After you see the destruction of the plate, I think there's, personally, what I think to be one of the more effective, emotionally touching scenes, and that is when, and like I said, Elmira, who is Eris's mom, talks about how she met Eris, how she raised Eris, and how Eris is an ancient. Eris's theme plays over the monologue. It's beautifully told. It's emotionally taut. It's tight. It's simple. And it's touching. Now, people have said that there's an answer to this question. And maybe you can just say, yeah, there's an answer to that. I don't understand why the Turks never kidnapped Eris. They had decades to go into her house, pick her up while she's sleeping, or drug her, pick her up while she's doing her groceries, getting her groceries on. Why did they wait until this part of the game, when they now also have to deal with a terrorist group? Why did they wait until now?
There is an answer. I can't.
Okay, there's an answer. Great, we will move on. Did you feel the same way about the scene with Eris's mom?
I thought it was nice. I like that she has a mother. I like that they explain how Eris came to live in the slums.
Yeah,
in
and
the
it's a
first place.
really touching scene.
I like that you have to kind of sneak out to protect her, or you feel like you should sneak out to not involve her in your nonsense.
And admittedly, it's not like a damsel in distress thing. It's like you just met this girl, and she's clearly naive and young, and she hasn't proven herself in combat.
You're in a terrorist organization.
Yeah,
you
don't want to bring someone into this. Yeah, you don't want to bring someone into this.
She didn't consent to be in with your nonsense, but she wakes up and she finds you.
Of course.
So the answer to that question you just asked, I'm not going to tell you it, but I'm not sure if this game has the answer.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Now, we have what I think is, gameplay-wise, one of the worst moments of the game thus far, and that is navigating the plate sequence. Going up the piping to go to the Shinra.
The shiny wire of hope. Yeah, that segment sucks. I'll admit that sucks.
3D polygonal characters navigating two-dimensional backgrounds is...
I have nothing for you. I don't like 7.
At least there's no random encounters. Look, at least maybe they were like, ah, man, this sequence that we put in this game is already messed up. Let's not put in random encounters here. Because if there had been random encounters, I probably would have quit.
Yeah, 7 is the game I like the least of all the PS1 games. Final Fantasy
That's not
games,
to say it's a bad game.
No, it's still a good game. I'm not going to defend that shiny wire of hope.
7 and 8.
It's competing against 8 and 9.
8 and 9.
And 9 is my favorite game of all time, so, coming in
The
third.
part where you have to jump from the wire onto the other platform, and you have to time it, and there's a sound prompt, but...
Yeah,
fuck.
and the segment protecting Eris where you have to, drop barrels on dudes.
Oh, God, that part was so bad, because it's like, oh, well, they're closest to this barrel, of course it's that one. Nope, that one's going to hit a bump, and then it's going to go over here, and then, great, you just got -3 to your... romance, a relationship. Can we talk about the relationship scene, or the relationship mechanism?
Yeah,
it's arbitrary, oftentimes arbitrary. Sure. It's never surfaced. Yep. You have no idea that it exists.
Yep. I like it though. I
like how it doesn't punish you for going with one way or the other, or all of a sudden these characters are like, I'm not going to do anything for you, me.
I just enjoy that. After, I guess in a post-Mass Effect world...
It's a stupid thing that's to the side and not a big deal.
In a post-Mass Effect and post-BioWare world, I enjoy a relationship system that is a bit more opaque and where you just telling people what they want to hear all the time just clearly results in the good outcomes. I like that in Final Fantasy VII it's at least a little bit more cloaked.
Okay.
And that might just be because Final Fantasy VII's dialogue system is not as advanced.
Eventually you get to the Shinra HQ, and I don't know about you, but I was not in the mood of sneaking in, so I just decided to waltz into
I always sneak in.
I waltz into the front. I waltz into the front because, one, I want to get some of them levels. I want to get some of them Gs. And then, two, I got no tolerance for bullshit stealth sequences.
No, do you know what happens if you sneak in?
90s game, no.
No, so what happens is you take the stairs. So the way you did, you break in the front and then you go up an elevator, right?
Yep.
If you sneak in, you take the stairs, which means there are no random battles for that. Or I guess you sneak...
Motherfucker.
The sneak in part, I forget if that means you go underground and you get in that way, but I think you have to go through the tunnel system anyway. I think it's
cooler for you to just be like, peace, motherfucker, and then you're just gunning down everyone in the building.
Sure.
I think it's cooler to do
But when you take the stairs, at first it's just like you going up this set of stairs a few times and no one has anything to say. But as you get further and further up, Barrett and Tifa get more and more tired of going up the stairs, and they'll curse at you and be upset. They're like, we could have just killed people. Why are we doing this? There's so many. Why are there so many stairs? And I think there's even an item somewhere up the stairs.
I'll go ahead and watch that. But I think it made sense to just waltz through, and also...
Yeah, I mean, that's the more fun way. I just enjoy Barrett getting pissed off.
Either way, you have to subject yourself to, 10 different floor levels with each their own different conceit?
Yeah.
And the sneaking through the statues one is painful. The one where you're trying to figure out the library is a crock of shit.
Yep.
I basically had to look that up on a guide because I had zero tolerance for, so I have to match the numbers to a letter to the book, and then I got to write this down. It's like, fuck it, no.
So, was that better or worse than the Final Fantasy VIII Ultimecia dungeon?
Oh, the Ultimecia dungeon was one of the stupidest things I think I've ever seen.
Okay.
I mean, at least there's a logic to the books because, you just have to find the book that doesn't make sense, then match the number on the book to the letter in that thing. You can figure that out pretty quickly. It's tedious as fuck. It's stupidly tedious.
But that painting room is so good.
So Byzantine, and it's so dumb. And certainly when you finally figure it out, it makes sense, but
aesthetically, it's so strong.
It's such a neat level. I wish it had an actual puzzle worth fuck. But it doesn't.
Yeah. But it doesn't.
At least they have the common courtesy of putting a floor where you basically can save your game.
Yep.
That was nice. The opening the box puzzles were dumb. One where you basically had to piece together the Shinra model and then also open the doors in order to get the items.
Yep.
It's dumb. That's always dumb.
And then you get to the top and there's murder.
You get to the top and you peep on Shinra. And basically, the big problem I have is that you basically sneak through Shinra and nobody picks up on you not having a Shinra uniform or being an employee. Yeah, there's a guy who says, you look like the new people who are the janitors. But then you sneak into Hojo's lab and none of the scientists are like, how did you get here?
Shinra's a fucked up place. They don't... Well, for one thing, I wish they just said, hey, Cloud, you're wearing the soldier uniform.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. But no, it's more like, whatever, this is a weird company. Did you see what the president does at the Honeybee Inn? We'll do anything. We don't care.
So you find out by spying on Shinra that one, they have a board of directors.
Oh, the board of directors is so good. Scarlet.
They're mustache-twirling villains from a James Cameron movie is what I referred to them as.
Palmer's so good.
Hidegar? How did you pronounce his name?
Heidegger.
Heidegger.
That's how I always pronounce him.
Scarlet's great. I like Scarlet. She's like, I want cool robot things that can kill people.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Palmer's the space program director.
Yeah, he's a crazy guy. He's like, let's go to space. It's like, yeah, dude, let's go to space.
Yeah, let's go to space.
Oh, God.
You're all right, Palmer.
No, I can't go to space in another Final Fantasy game. Please, no. God, no.
Let's go to space.
No. Last time I went to space, my brain hurt. Oh, and you go to Hojo's lab and you see a headless titty monster.
Yeah, that's weird. Genova's weird.
Genova's weird. I think we're going to talk about that when we actually get to the Nibelheim thing. We're spending a little bit too much time summarizing it. You basically get thrown in prison because, of course, the Turks find you. Why didn't they find you earlier? Whatever. You get Red 13, and he's a cool dog thing. I just think he's boring because he's like the heavy-handed environmentalist that has a knack for talking to the environment.
Well, you need a fifth environmentalist character.
Because the first one's going to die.
Well, I mean, Eris and...
Oh, yeah. There's
Tifa
too many...
and Barrett.
They all have the same character archetype, kind of.
No, I don't know. Tifa is the girl next door. Barrett is this weird...
dude.
Leader man.
Yeah. Who basically loses his ability to lead once Cloud comes.
His backstory's cool.
His backstory's great. I really want to talk about it because I really like...
Okay, let's fast forward through Midgar because you find President Shinra, he's dead.
He's dead.
That level's
there are
really
random
good.
encounters that shouldn't be in the part where you break out of the prison.
There's blood on the ground.
There's blood on the ground. That's great. Hojo's a weirdo.
Yep, Hojo's
you fight
a weirdo.
Rufus. Rufus is... his face looks weird.
Yep. I mean,
and then there's the motorcycle sequence. Fuck that sequence.
Yep. The controls are bad.
Okay,
you
so
explained in your blog.
Are you playing this game with the keyboard, or did you?
Fuck no, I'm playing it on PlayStation.
So that
I'm not.
Is it?
I don't hate.
I've heard some people say that. Yeah, none of these mini games are good on a controller either.
I mean, they're not. They're just not good mini games. Like The controls are not the problem.
And then I made a really hilarious mistake. I forgot to re-equip my materia once the motorcycle sequence was done. So it was Tifa, Barrett, and Cloud. And it was like Barrett and Tifa didn't have shit. And there was this evil robot monster. And I basically died. Here's my HP for all my characters. Cloud had 38, Barrett had 22, and Tifa had 79. That's how close we got. One laser
solid.
beam attack could have really fucked me over.
Well, you did it. Way to go.
And then that leads us to part 2, which is about to be published. So you've been helping me through. I think the first 2 parts of the next blog are going to be about how the mechanics are a little confusing and they're not really surfaced very well. I mean, the materia system, it says, hey, there's cool combinations in the game, but there's really only 4 or 5 that matter.
I don't know. There are a
using
lot of
all
cool...
on certain elemental or spell attacks, despite the fact that it reduces it. And then I haven't been able to use steel very well.
If I remember correctly, combining steel with certain physical attack ones will cause you to steal when attacking.
Here's the shitty thing that I just learned. Some of the summons, if you add them to the add effect thing, materia, they can actually make you immune to certain status ailments.
Yep.
The game didn't tell me that. And then I told you this. I was really angry when I talked about this. I spent 6,000 gil buying copies of Heal, thinking that they were a stronger version of Restore. It is not. The names on these spells. And then also when you go to a materia seller, basically you don't really know what the spell does. You just assume what it is based off its name.
Mm-hmm.
And that means I made a lot of mistakes. I thought Heal was a stronger version of Restore because I thought Heal clearly means make me healthy, not cure me of all my bullshit status ailments.
Have you seen the frog status ailment yet?
Yeah, I have. That's pretty cool. But also, it's such a pain in the ass.
Yep.
That's why I have
It makes you into a frog.
That's why I have Frog Song. Yeah, they didn't turn you into a frog in 8.
Nope. 8, you get... What's the weirdest status effect in 8?
Bad Breath? Oh, no, Devour.
I mean, that's all of them. What'd you say?
Devour's pretty cool.
That's not a status effect, though. I don't think there are any cool ones. Curse is kind of fucked
What's the
up.
one where you just basically spin around in a circle?
Confuse.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. There's a boss in 8 that you can actually use Confuse on, and they react...
Biggs and Wedge, and they start talking to each other. Why are you attacking me?
Yep. Stop picking on me.
You never liked me. All right, so the next major scene is going to Calm, and I went the right direction this time.
Way to go.
You go to Calm, and there's the depiction of what I believe the game... I don't know if it's just people call it this, the Nibelheim incident? Nibelheim incident?
Yeah.
Everything about that scene is great. I know I've said that, that's great. There's a lot of bullshit in this game. We're going to talk about it, but the recollection, for what it's worth, the original recollection or the original telling of Sephiroth essentially setting Cloud's hometown on fire, and then the shot of him walking away with the fire around him.
It makes you understand why people have been obsessed with that exact shot for the last 19 years.
It takes your breath. It really does pull you into the scene, understanding, at least from a superficial level, understanding Cloud's grief and reluctance to be an active participant in the story, or reluctant to confront his past. You at least can understand it, or understand why he's kind of has a cold personality sometimes, because he's experienced this tragedy. That makes sense. That's all they needed to goddamn do to Squall. They just needed to have something like that.
I mean, they do.
No, they don't.
He was an orphan. He grew up.
Fucking forgot he was an orphan because he equipped GFs. How was he supposed to know why he was sad?
Yep, Cloud definitely won't have anything weird happen to him.
I can kind of already tell that Cloud is an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, I mean, in Nibelheim, they ask him...
They ask him questions that he's not able to answer, and Tifa kind of suggests that, hey, that's not right. What are you talking about? You didn't go into my room. I totally found your orthopedic underwear. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. We made that joke already.
Yep. It's still weird.
But for what it is worth, the spectacle of the event is pretty good.
Yes.
Here's my problem. Here's one of my great fears, and I kind of talk about this on the next blog. First and foremost, I appreciate how straightforward and simple the storytelling of Final Fantasy VII is. All of this Genova stuff and the Promised Land stuff is bringing in science fiction themes and fantasy themes that are totally in conflict to its simple and straightforward storytelling. And it's going to needlessly complicate an otherwise simple and effective story.
You don't even know.
Great. So everything that I'm fearing about is going to probably happen.
You saw Advent Children. You know this is going to get needlessly complicated.
Yeah, but I was
a
drunk
gray-haired
when
boy
I saw
like
that.
Oh, okay. So you don't even remember.
I don't
Okay.
kind of remember it. I was with an anime club in college, and I consumed a lot of hard cider.
Okay, so you were rolling with a dark crowd.
I was rolling with a dark crowd. And the game can't even consistently commit to its gaslighting of Cloud.
That still isn't what that term means.
Or the neuroses or
they can't
psychological
commit to what
trauma of Cloud.
To what he's afflicted with. You don't really know what's up.
Amnesia at one point. It's re-experiencing flashbacks in another point. It's having voices in your head in a different point. It's 3 or 4 different things whenever it's a convenient to the story.
I'm not going to tell you anything.
But the problem that I have with how it's characterized is it's different, and it switches between those 3 or 4 types.
I'm not going to tell you anything.
For the convenience of the story.
You don't even know.
I think this classifies as gaslighting. He's being forced to confront the reality of his world.
You get to Nibelheim, and then we'll talk about what you think is actually happening.
You really don't think this qualifies as gaslighting?
I just know what's going to happen.
I'm still going to call it gaslighting because that's my early impressions of it.
Okay, do you want me...
No, I don't want the answer.
I'm not going to give you an answer, but to be gaslighting, he would have to remember something one way and be right about it.
Oh, really? Well, I thought that he was. I'm not changing any of my verbiage here. I stand by everything.
That's all I'll say.
I'll stand by everything in this. I also don't want it. I think I used it like multiple times. Hey, remember that one time in my Final Fantasy VIII blog when I made predictions based off of Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces? And all of those predictions were wrong?
Yep.
I think I'm going to be really wrong in the second blog. But that's okay.
So, do you want a hot preview on what you think? And then I'll...
I think that basically... I think Cloud has a split personality disorder. And one of those personalities is like a friend or someone he thinks is a friend. I think that he still...
So that's that voice in his head?
Yeah, it's got to be someone important that's dead or his version of that person. And Eris is going to be the way to access that person. And then I think that he realizes that he's not who he is. It's basic, but that's all I'm going with. I really don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, good. Those are theories.
I honestly, there are parts of this game that I kind of like how it doesn't play its cards all at once. That was a problem that I kind of had with Final Fantasy VIII. When Final Fantasy VIII decided to deal its cards, it basically dealt all of its cards all at once, and then it would deal like one card or the corner of a card for like 4 hours, and then all of a sudden it decided to display everything out. Here
it would make
7,
it rain cards. It would just
7,
be Dr. Odine just throwing
7 is basically a slower progression of playing out the cards.
So far, yeah.
So far, fine, sure. I'm willing to be wrong here.
I don't think that there are as many exposition dumps in 7 as there are in 8, if I remember correctly.
And admittedly, this is a pretty good exposition dump. The whole idea of Sephiroth having this mental breakdown when he encounters the reality of who he is and where he came from. Although, he's depicted as this war veteran. Why does he give a shit that he's a tube baby? Don't answer that.
Do you know what Genova is yet? I forget.
No, I don't. I'm going from my experience from Advent Children.
Okay, then you don't fully understand what made him not so happy.
Okay. I think that the addition of Genova is dumb.
I think Genova is a dumb construct.
Here's the thing. I think Genova hurts the story, not helps the story. And it would have been fine if Sephiroth was just a bad dude that decided to betray Shinra for his own personal...
Sure, and it also would help if Genova, like, if you didn't cut an arm off Genova, it didn't become a weird, huge monster thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand the logistics of that.
And then why does he love his mother and then, like, rips off her body parts?
You should keep playing.
Okay. You have, by far, one of the most striking and off-putting examples of cognitive dissonance after the calm scene. Because right after having Cloud convey what happened in Nibelheim, Nibelheim, you go hunting for chocobos.
Yeah.
The story went from 120 miles per hour to 0 in literally a half a second.
And then after that, you just kind of wander around for a bit, right? Isn't it just, you can go to like...
Yeah, and the story basically, after Calm dies, you don't really understand why you're going to any of these cities. The real reason why you go to all these cities like Junon, and the Chocobo farm is because they're the only parts of the overworld that you can go to. In fact, it took me a while to figure out I needed to go to the Chocobo farm because I was basically going up, down, left, right, trying to find all these cities, or basically other new locations, and only to find out that there was this farm all the way over here. It doesn't say, hey, let's go west to the Chocobo farm. It had the common decency to say go east to Calm. It doesn't do that for the Chocobo farm. Doesn't do that for... They do kind of say Junon, but then it's like, why am I in the beach resort town place? Why am I...
Del Sol.
Why am I here? Oh, God, there's a problem with that scene. I don't like it. But... And then, of course, all the point A to point B, you have these really pointless scenes with the Churks, and they're dumb. I feel like it...
I like Reno.
The Turks are terrible at their job.
They are.
And they're depicted as being this awesome threat, and they're so bad at their job, and everyone's bad at their job in this game. Shinra's terrible in their job. Shinra's the worst.
Either they're terrible at their job, or they just don't care about the orders they're being given.
Do I classify the Turks as a villain, or are they just kind of like the lovable, friendly rival?
Do you classify Raijin and Fujin as villains?
No.
Then they're the same sort of characters.
So at your behest, because I didn't do it during the live stream, I got Yuffie.
Yep.
And I actually, right now, my party, because I don't have Vincent, my party is Cloud, Tifa, Yuffie.
That was my party up until this point.
Okay. Getting Yuffie is a pain in the ass.
It is.
You have to...
She's awesome.
Look, you have a secret character as part of a hidden secret mission. Hiding a secret character into the random encounter sequence in this very obscure part of the map. How was I supposed to know that the forests were somehow different, or I could only find her? How am I supposed to goddamn know that Yuffie is a hidden character in this game? Vincent has a specific part of the environment that I can interact with and then locate. And it's like, oh, there's this weird part of this place.
Yeah, so...
But Yuffie, how would I know if I didn't look it up in the guide that there's Yuffie?
I think you can find her hometown, and that's where you might get a hint that she exists if you haven't found her by then. And Vincent, like, the area where he's hidden, you might not necessarily know.
But here's the deal.
That he's there.
These characters shouldn't be hidden. Plain and simple. These characters should not be hidden. They have story sequences that really add a lot to the game.
Yeah, if you don't
Vincent and Yuffie are really critical to the story, and it's insane that they are hidden in this game.
Yuffie is less critical to the story. Vincent is very critical to the story, oddly enough.
You shouldn't hide characters like this. That's crap. And then hiding one of those characters in the random encounter sequence is bullshit. And then also having Yuffie's encounter require you to respond to her in a very exact way with one failure resulting in her running away
and robbing you
is bullshit. That is total bullshit. Mm-hmm. That is total bullshit. Because I don't know what her personality is. I don't know what her psyche is. I have no idea which prompt matches with her personality the best. And the game expects me to know that. That's bullshit.
The game expects you to do that multiple times.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit because she has, 25% chance of encountering her when you go into the forest?
I'm not going to argue that that's a great way to have a hidden character. I think it's dumb, too.
And then immediately after that, you got to fight a sea monster and then play CPR. And it's like, wait, we just had this thing where we watched the massacre of an entire population by Sephiroth. Cloud lost his mother. She's dead. And then we're fucking around with the Turks. We're hunting for chocobos. And I'm doing CPR on a child that plays around with dolphins.
Yep.
What?
That is a weird sequence.
What? And then here's a really infuriating scene that I had. When you rest after rescuing the little girl, the little voice in Cloud's head asks him to confront the inconsistencies of his recollection of the events at his hometown. He goes up to Tifa and is like, hey, that didn't make any sense. Could you tell me what actually happened? And she's like, it was 5 years ago. I forgot. Bye. And then he never brings it up ever again. He is prompted to confront his past. He doesn't. And you're making funny faces to suggest that this will all be answered very soon.
You said you're going to Nibelheim?
Yeah.
Go to Nibelheim.
Okay. But Cloud could have taken the prerogative to confront his past when he was first confronted with the idea that...
Yeah, up until this point, it makes no sense.
It's weak sauce that he's like, oh, you don't want to talk? Fine, I guess I'll just forget that little voice in my head said, hey, there's possibly a paradox with your story.
Amnesia lets you do a lot of stuff.
Amnesia is a crux, and it's a really dumb, boring crutch. Yes.
It's also the crux of this story, but yes.
Oh, God. The game essentially blue-balled Cloud's story progression.
Yeah, for a little
bit. It made it really interesting when you saw what happened to him when he was a child. It gives a nice hook into wanting to know more, and then it doesn't give you anything for a solid 5 hours.
Yep, and this game is weirdly paced. I would say that of the Final Fantasy games on the PS1, 7 is probably the most poorly paced.
8 goes from 0 to 60, 120, and then back to 0.
I don't know. All
right, 8, maybe I need to get to disc 2.
I don't know. Maybe 8 gets... I just feel like when it gets to 180, it shoots for
the stars
everything.
And misses. 7's... Okay, fine. I haven't gotten to the crazy parts that you're alluding to. But so far, 7's been crazy, but we haven't done some of the stupid stuff we did in 8. And when 8 goes fast, 8...
Yeah, but you thought that 8 was pretty... You thought 8 was pretty normal before you finished Disc 1.
Yeah.
After you finished Disc 1, stuff jumped off. You're not even through disc 1 of 7 yet. You're not even halfway through disc 1 of 7 yet.
Marching minigame's bad.
Yep, that's bad. You haven't been to
Simon,
Nibelheim.
the Simon Says thing where you're spinning the gun around to impress Rufus.
Yep, that's weird.
That one sucked. Controls are bad.
You've been to the Gold Saucer once?
All right.
Gold Saucer's cool. I mean, Coral's really cool. Dine is a great character.
Yeah, you go on the
Barrett's,
boat. You go on the boat, and I did
fight Genova's arm.
No, there's something worse about that. The fact that everyone's dressed up as a soldier and Shinra doesn't figure out, oh, we have all these people that have just been here that don't have any identification cards or anything.
They're sailors.
And one of them is Red 13 pretending to be a human being, and nobody realizes that.
That's always the best.
That scene's stupid.
Everyone
it's so
in sailor
stupid
outfits.
Because immediately after that, all of the officers in Shinra get massacred, and you have to fight this evil eldritch abomination.
That was made of an arm.
Made of an arm. And it's kind of gross. It's kind of horrifying. And then Cloud is surprised when Sephiroth appears before him. And it's like, wait, didn't we already recognize that Sephiroth is alive and farting around, faffing about? Why are we surprised that he's actually really here? Now, here's one thing that I'm going to say. My theory is, I do not think that the Sephiroth we encountered on the boat, or thus far, is the real Sephiroth. I think it's an apparition. And I'm going to say why. He floats out from the ground, floats through buildings, floats through solid objects, and I think that is proof that it's like a hologram, or it's basically an apparition.
Okay, that's a theory.
That's my theory.
We
are not actually encountering Sephiroth. That's my
theory.
That is my theory.
I am going to continue to not tell you things.
Okay, great. You got to go through a bunch of bullshit levels that are really hard to navigate. The train tracks are bad. Oh, you go
There's
to
the Mithril Mines.
The Mithril Mines. It's an interesting place to learn more about Barrett. We forgot about Costa del Sol, where you see Hojo hanging around with some bikini girls, and that scene doesn't work because he's a goddamn war criminal. Why aren't we shooting him in the face or punishing him? And then here's my problem. You clearly know that Hojo is probably going to come back into the story and maybe make the lives of some of the people here miserable. And they have no one to blame but themselves for not doing something to seriously curtail or eliminate Hojo as a threat.
Final Fantasy VII takes a lot of times to use these characters who are supposed to be terrible villains as comic relief. Like the Turks.
And it's so bad.
Alternatingly a serious threat and comic relief. Scarlet and Heidegger and Palmer and Hojo are alternatingly bumbling idiots and then horrible threats.
Horrible threats that do things that take them as war criminals. President Shinra gets beat up by his dominatrix, or the other way around, and then he basically orders the destruction of an entire community.
Yeah.
He commits an act of genocide.
Yeah,
Hojo wanted to have Red 13 impregnate Eris. Am I right in saying that?
Either that or he wanted them to fight to the death to see which one was superior. It was weird.
Either way, he's a war criminal that creates horrible abominations, experiments on them against their consent. He's a terrible human being who's seen hanging out with some bikini girls. Scene doesn't work.
I forget if that's even the most anachronistic thing that happened.
It doesn't matter. It's an anachronism, and it doesn't work. That scene does not work. And the worst part is you hear him mumble, "Go west." What the fuck does that mean? You have to actually go up a mountain and then left and right over here, and then the game doesn't really explain where it wants you to go.
Nope.
Ever. Well, maybe sometimes it says go west, go east, go north, go south.
Those are directions.
Those are directions, but what part of north? Do I go up the mountain? Do I go up the forest?
Yeah.
I had the glitch where... Did you see my live stream where Cloud was upside down and giant?
Yeah, that was pretty great.
I had that glitch happen again.
Great. I hope that's a PC exclusive.
I believe it is. And Barrett gets set up for a really great character moment, but in kind of the worst way possible. He gets set up as being hated by North Coral, despite the fact that when he flashes back, it seems like basically Dyne is the only person who was against the Shinra reactor being built. There were other people who were okay with the Shinra reactor being built. They're like, Dyne, you're the only holdout. We can't be doing coal. And he's off doing an errand, so why is he blamed for the act of Shinra against North Coral? Why? Why would people of North Coral hate Barrett?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Why indeed?
Why indeed? So they kind of set up the fact that he's hated, the town is destroyed because the Shinra is evil, they had a reactor blow up and they massacred the population. Why would they do that if they need people to service the reactor and serve in Shinra and bring them into their cause? Shinra is just conveniently evil rather than being logically evil. And
I mean, yeah, they are the evil. Why do they want the promised
land? They're
basically
Wayland Yutani, and you know what?
They already control everything. What do they hope to gain?
Why are you killing your customers?
Because they're evil. Why are they making
evil
super soldiers?
They're evil for the sake of being evil.
I mean, they made super soldiers to fight Wu Tai.
Wu Tai, yeah. Wu Tai! I got you on the check. But that is not you. So you talked about the biggest anachronism. We're about to see one of the biggest anachronisms and cognitive dissonance moments yet. You have Barrett tell his story. How and why North Coral is destroyed and why the people there hate him. And then you go to the Golden Saucer.
Yep.
You guys haven't had a boss fight in a solid 4 or 5 hours.
Barrett has an arm because his arm got shot trying to save Dyne.
And
now they both have gun arms, and then he has to put down his friend.
We go to the Golden Saucer to
And then
relax.
you go to the Gold Saucer. And you get lit.
We go to the Golden Saucer because we don't go on the date yet.
Oh, okay.
But we go to the Golden Saucer just to relax. And Barrett poured his heart out, and now we're just having fun in this casino amusement park. And
Did you play the motorcycle game?
I didn't play the motorcycle game. I don't want to play the motorcycle game because I spent all my money on the Chocobo stuff.
Because you didn't know what Chocobo racing,
Yeah.
what I really meant.
You guys said the Chocobo racing was critical, so what was I supposed to interpret that as?
You need to breed them. You need to make them sex
exciting.
until you have...
That doesn't sound exciting or appealing based off of what I've...
It has its moments.
It's
kind
not
of tedious.
hard. It's not like hard to actually win the races. If you really need help, you just hit those 2 buttons and you get that extra speed boost.
Yeah.
Why is that there? Why did they do that?
You can, if you whip the Chocobo, or if you make the Chocobo boost too much, and you use all your boost, then your Chocobo gets exhausted.
For those that are wondering what I'm griping about, how I lost 6,000 gil, I thought that everyone talking about, hey, Chocobo racing is really important. You got to put a lot of time and effort into it. I thought you bet on the Chocobos, and if you bet on the same Chocobos and those Chocobos race, you leveled those Chocobos up. I didn't know that you actually had to race to level them up. So I kept losing over and over again.
You need to own your own Chocobo.
And I lost like 600 G's on the goddamn basketball game. That game's... And then there's Kate Sith, and I think he's dumb. Do we really need a comic, like a deliberate comic relief character?
Another one?
Another one. When all of the other characters, even when they're at their lowest points, alternate between comic relief and drama? Do we really need someone who's comic relief all of the time? And you know Kate Sith isn't going to get a character arc. He's a goddamn dummy.
Do you? Do you know that?
All right. Here's what I don't know this for a fact. Kate Sith is the fucking spy. Kate Sith is the spy that is allowing the Turks to follow the tracks of Cloud. And here's why I say that. The reason why I say that is, who in the party has yet to express any discontent towards Shinra? Who in the party has the least reason to be in the party? Kate Sith.
He shows up and says, "Hey,
Hey,
I'm
I want to
rolling
be in
with
this
you
party." It's like, wait, what? So when goddamn,
I brought Coke. Let me in the party.
why are you? Do you have any good skills that are worth a fuck in combat?
I'm a tiny cat riding a
Gelatinous marshmallow.
noodle.
Yeah, that's okay. It's almost as if there's someone in the party that may be here for reasons unbeknownst to everyone else.
Hello, fellow cool kids. I am not a cop.
We have a spy, and Kate Sith is clearly the spy.
You don't think it's Barrett?
It's fucking Kate Sith, dude. Like, who,
You don't think it's Eris?
in
That's
this
why she
party
dies.
joined the group for no goddamn reason in particular?
Maybe it was Eris. Maybe that's why she
would
dies.
you trust the random bozo you picked up at a casino?
It's a great question.
Why would you trust the random bozo you picked up at a casino? And it's like, oh, gee, we keep getting followed by the Turks and Shinra. It's almost as if someone's relaying information as to our whereabouts at a constant rate. I wonder who that is. It's the person that joined us at the casino. Like, fuck everything. The fact that
it's definitely
then
not
Cloud
that.
says, I trust everybody. It's like, really?
Do you,
Dude,
Cloud?
Cloud, come on.
You said I gets mine at the beginning of the game. I don't even care about your mission.
It's Kate Sith's dumbass fault for getting us thrown into the coral prison in the first place, because he said, hey, let's run. Wait, no, let's just explain why are we? No, God, no, let's just tell the dude, Dio, that, hey, we just came in here because you told us to go to the battle square, and then we tried to investigate and help people. Why did you listen to Kate Sith and run away from the scene of the crime, making you the lead suspects? Why does the Golden Saucer have a prison and function on it? Why does she allow the Golden Saucer to function on its own law system when that directly contradicts their sense of power?
Because they are fake Vegas. It's the desert surrounding Vegas.
Lord have mercy on your soul if you try to explore the prison in Coral, the Coral prison, because I tried to explore the area and I got stuck and lost in the desert and kept getting attacked by those giant dune worms.
Oh yeah, those are messed up.
And then eventually a guy on a chocobo cart came to my rescue.
Yep. I think there's stuff in the desert, but I forget.
Yeah, well, if there's stuff in the desert, you have to fight a bunch of worms that look like they're from Dune. And those guys are no fun. You get a lot of experience points.
Yeah, you get a lot of levels from them.
I think I actually rage quit and then loaded up a save. You don't actually know where Dine is. I thought he was in the middle of the desert.
Nope.
No.
Not in the middle of the desert.
So, the Dine sequence is amazing.
Yep.
It's a really good scene.
That might be my favorite moment in all of Final Fantasy.
Really?
VII.
This early in the game?
I think it's just poignant.
It's a really poignant scene where Dine is a man of grief, sorrow, and he kills because basically he doesn't know how to do anything else anymore because he has a sense that he's failed as a father. He's lost his wife and he assumes he's lost his daughter. So he starts killing for the sake of killing because there's an emptiness in his soul and being.
And Barrett fights him mano a mano to
try and put him down or knock some sense into him. He doesn't want to have to kill Dine, but Dine doesn't know anything else other than killing. And then when it comes to it, Barrett tries to convince him to live for the sake of Marlene. Dine asks Barrett to raise Marlene in his honor. He gives him the little locket of his mother, and he falls to his death, committing suicide. It's a spellbinding scene. It's a really, really good scene. And to be honest, in concept, it necessitates a quieter moment where you're kind of doing something slightly comical, which was what will lead to the chocobo racing. And I feel like the chocobo racing is set up much better than farming in the chocobo place and then going to the Golden Saucer. But I just didn't like the chocobo racing. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about in terms of Barrett and Dine? It's a really well-told scene.
I don't remember enough of it. I'm not up to it again in my playthrough. And I'm guessing the next time we record one of these, I'll have something to say about it. Because I remember that scene sticks with me.
Yeah.
But I don't remember all the specifics, unfortunately.
I feel like... It's almost as if I wish that kind of storytelling existed throughout for all of the characters.
For all the characters, for all the game. It will in Final Fantasy IX, except for one character.
Oh.
For the most part. It will be for 7 of the 8 characters. And that one character gets a little bit.
So I capitulate the need for a lighter scene in that I feel like Chocobo Racing is set up exactly as I wanted it to. There's a reason for you to do it. It will lead to your freedom. There's an actual story reason for you to engage in it. I just don't think it's fun. You hit auto when you get lazy and want to make a sandwich. You hit manual when you actually have the time to give a fuck about the racing.
Yep.
There's really no reason for you to... I know some people say, oh, you really got to be strategic about your stamina. No, you don't.
I mean, you can be.
I mean,
you do when you get to higher levels.
When you do get to higher levels, but these early levels, basically, if you're not using all your stamina, you're done it wrong. Basically, If you have stamina left over at the end of the race, you did something wrong.
Well, yeah, there's no good reason to have stamina left over. That's boost.
Yeah.
That's free speed.
So...
But there is good reason to save it because I believe you do restore it over the course of the race.
I get that, but in this very one specific case, I just basically sped ahead and then won the race.
Yep.
And I was advised by multiple people to get some enemy skills, and I'm glad I did so because there were a couple that really saved my ass. Aqualung is no joke. That pack is great. I'm really glad I got Aqualung.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, whenever there was a boss that I needed to hit over 1,000 points of damage on, I used Aqualung. It was great. I haven't used Big Guard as much as I probably should have because I've never been a buffing guy in terms of these games. I've never been big on buffing.
Yeah.
White Wind has its uses whenever I feel like I've really messed up in the combat and I need to make up a huge deficit in health.
Yeah, so... Remind me, with the enemy skill materia, so with most materias, you get a certain number of uses of them, right?
Yes. No,
like
you can...
the all materia.
Oh, okay.
The all materia, like, after you use it once, you can only cast all spells X number of times, right?
I don't think you can junction... I don't think you can connect the all materia to the enemy skill materia.
No, you can't. I just remember that the all materia is the only one where once you use it once, it's done. And the summons too.
If you can level up the all materia, you are able to use it.
You get multiple uses. Same thing with summons, but with the enemy skill materia, you can use it as many times as you have.
I have a quick gameplay thing. I don't know if I asked you this. When you master a materia, do you get another duplicate of it?
Yes.
Okay.
It poops out a baby. That's level 1, and the all materia, something you should know gameplay-wise, is that the all materia is the most valuable materia in terms of selling it. So as materia level up, they get more expensive.
Why would you sell the all materia? It's so useful.
Because when you have because the difference between a mastered all materia and a level 2 or level 3 all materia in functional purposes is not that big. You only really need to cast an all spell like maybe 2 or 3 times a fight if things are going well, and they are the most expensive thing in the entire game to sell an all materia, and so that allows you to just buy gobs of
I have Frog Song,
and every time you master an all materia, you get a new copy. It produces babies.
I have Frog Song.
That's a good.
It's good to have because when you get frog cast on you, it's kind of a pain in the ass to deal with.
Yeah, and when you have frog cast on you, is Frog Song the only thing you can cast?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's a good ability.
You go to Gongaga. I think Gongaga's... I wish I spent more time, or the game had let us spend more time in Gongaga. That's one where you fight Reno and Rude, and you get the wand, which I'll never use because fucking Eris is not going to get any shit from me. I'm going to sell all this shit. And then
Did you learn anything about Gongaga?
Gongaga's the one where you find out about Zack, a guy named Zack. You learn that he is the ex-boyfriend of Eris. Eris starts to get a little... I lucked out. I actually... When I got the wand, I wanted to see what it looked like. And of course, it's a magical girl wand. So I had Eris and Tifa with me when I went to Gongaga, and they both had kind of an emotional flashback and didn't want to continue with the adventure. So I was lucky that I had them. And Zach is a dude that I bet is going to factor into the story again.
No, they just... This is a game where named characters...
They mentioned his name for the sake of it.
Yeah, like they have this whole town where that's the only thing that anyone really mentions is this one character named Zach. It's probably not going to come.
I'm probably going to come. I don't know.
It's like Fort Condor. Like, why does that place even exist?
Do I have to do Fort Condor?
I think at one point you have to do like an mission in Fort Condor.
Is it okay that I skip the first Fort Condor?
Yeah. I think you have to go there later, but it's not a big thing.
You go to Cosmo Canyon, and this is going to be the last part that we talk about. Red 13 is boring.
Yep.
I
like his limit breaks, though.
His limit breaks are okay. It's just... He's a talking dog thing that is yet another yippy-dippy hippie that talks to the planet.
But he's also, like, fake Native American.
Fake Native American.
I love the music in Cosmo Canyon.
Fake Native American that also these people have a weird observatory all the way up top on the top of their mountain. And here's the biggest problem with Cosmo Canyon. It's a giant brown blob, and it's actually a giant pain to find out where you need to go to any place.
That's true, but the music is so good.
It's a blob-like mountain, and I just got so frustrated going into the wrong buildings or not knowing where each store was that I had to turn on the select input and highlight where all the doors were. I didn't rename.
That's generally a bad sign.
I didn't rename Red 13 Final Fantasy 13 for my blog. I did that during the endurance run. I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
that was kind of a dick move. I don't know.
I forget. Do you learn Red 13's name?
Nanaki.
Here? Nanaki? Okay, you do learn it. One of my friends, when I was growing up, named Red 13 Nanaki, so that when they had that revelation, it just made no sense. Nanaki, your name's Nanaki? Well, yeah, I told you.
His grandfather is a weeble, like a weeble's wobble, and they don't fall down.
Yeah, I don't know if he's supposed to be like if it's
floating around, like a weird space wizard.
I don't know if he's supposed to be his actual biological.
He's not. He's a goddamn talking dog. There's no way that the talking dog is actually related to human beings.
I don't know.
Maybe a human fuck a dog.
They were trying to make Eris fuck a Red 13. I don't know.
A lot of Cosmo Canyon reeks of a Miyazaki film that wasn't good. A bad Miyazaki.
Got turned down.
Yeah, it reeks of a Miyazaki script that got rejected.
Fair enough.
I mean, was it really necessary to have another naturalistic character or a preservationist character?
That's kind of the main plot. If there's one message, and Final Fantasy VII has one message, it is that nature is good, evil corporations are bad.
Oh, yeah, let's get rid of electricity in our way of life and engage in the naturalistic fallacy.
Well, I mean, the way they make electricity is sucking the souls out of the planet and turning it into electricity.
And then, well, as if there's like a usable, like, with oil or gasoline. Let's just use a safe amount that doesn't completely ruin the environment.
Well, I forget. In Cosmo Canyon, do they explain what
you find out that make a reactor is the souls of people who have died?
Yes, it's the life stream. It's life itself.
It's basically Soylent Green.
Except if the planet runs out of souls,
it breaks apart. Despite the fact that the gravitational pull would immediately pull all matter back and coalesce into the planet.
I guess everyone in Final Fantasy VII land is reincarnated, so if you run out of souls, those souls are gone.
Mm.
It's a finite resource.
It's a part in the story. You find out the planet is dying, and if you don't...
And that explains why enemies, when they die, they disappear.
Yeah. They go into the life stream, which I have a feeling will factor into the story again.
Nope. They just had that exposition dump for no good reason.
God, that I don't know if you remember it, but the actual cave that you go in order to make Red 13 an adult is a fucking pain in the ass. the one where you have to split the rocks. You got to find the right rock and then cut it open. And if it's not the right rock, an evil enemy pops out.
I do remember
And then
that.
you have to fight a bunch of those big, giant spider monsters, and those aren't easy. Those monsters
And
suck.
then they're the ghosts of some clan.
Yeah, there's ghosts of
13's
some clan, and they all
killed.
cast, what is it, Death Sentence? And Death Sentence is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And then you find Red 13's parents.
No, you have to fight the evil boogeyman monster, and I had no tolerance for him, so I just used an X potion on him because he was an undead villain. So does that actually happen? People always talk about it. Is there always at least one undead boss you can kill with Phoenix down or an X potion?
Not always, but
It's common.
I think in Final Fantasy X there isn't even a zombie status effect.
Oh.
So I don't know that there are.
So
undead
I
enemies.
killed him by using an X potion on him. Because I didn't want to fucking deal with him. I was low on health, and fuck it. Yeah, you find out that Red 13's father, even though Red 13 assumes he was a coward, he finds out that he was a hero, and he sacrificed his life to protect the village.
Yep.
It's like, why did you wait until now to figure that out?
Because where he died is a land full of spooky ghosts. Why would he go there? They are spooky.
And then the other big thing is, I feel like the game kind of sabotages Red 13's moment to finally become an interesting character, because whereas Barrett now has a newfound sense of hope because now he has to take the time to raise and care for Marlene. There's a reason for him to be on this adventure. He needs to create a world for Marlene to be successful in, and he's going to raise her because he's lost a friend, and he has to raise her as a father. Red 13 tags along on this adventure because his grandpa told him to, rather than tagging along on this adventure because he needs to prove that he's an adult, or he's become an adult and has come to a conclusion on his own prerogative.
Yeah, Red 13's a weird character.
Red 13 is a gimmick character.
Yeah, he's a dog.
He's a talking dog guy.
Just like Kate Sith, and just like Yuffie's a ninja lady, and Vincent's a weird emo man with a metal arm. You'll meet Vincent. They all have their weird gimmicks for the most part.
Why are there secret characters in this game?
I don't know.
There shouldn't be. These characters...
Sid curses a lot.
There's a Sid in this game? Is Sid or Wedge the one that there always is a version of that character?
There's always a Sid. There's always a Sid.
Okay.
So this is not a revelation. There is always a Sid.
So that is where I'm at. We went a lot longer than we anticipated for the first part of this vlog.
We did.
Is there anything that you would like to warn me about? So I need to go to Nibelheim. I was actually going to ask you, hey, I don't actually know where I need to go next, because the game didn't tell me where to go.
So you have gone to...
I finished Cosmo Canyon.
Just got out of Cosmo Canyon, which means... I think the next thing is Nibelheim. I hope. I don't have my guidebook right next to me.
Is shit going to hit the fan?
Nibelheim is a thing. It's a heck of a thing.
So wait, you honestly ranked 7 as below 8 in terms of your own personal enjoyment?
So that comes with the context that I played 8 first.
Okay.
It was the first game I ever really played to completion. But it also... The reason I like 8 is not from a... Well, one, I think its story's batshit crazy in a way that games rarely
I would
are.
agree. I would agree. I appreciate... I would say this. I appreciate 8 as if I would appreciate a movie from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes, I appreciate it in the way people seem to appreciate Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
Or Mystery Science Theater. So... That is how I appreciate 8's story, and for some reason, that stupid Eyes on Me is
stuck in
than it has any right to.
Stuck in my head for life. Thank you for that, you asshole.
You're welcome. But it's catchier than it has any right to be. But really, I love 8 for what it did with the combat system. I think that 8's combat system is subtly brilliant.
I think 7 is a more consistent game.
I agree.
Okay, great. We got an agreement out of this. Not, hey, you're going to get the can off your head blown off. I think.
Oh, it's more consistent. Like, it's probably a better paced story. 8 is very
8 is all
up and down.
place.
It is,
but
the whole game is dedicated to a love to a romance that doesn't make
I
sense.
love that part of the game. I love the
8?
fact that 8 doesn't make sense. And I've been kind of waiting for, like, the shit to hit the fan or, like, something stupid to happen in 7.
Oh, don't worry. You're going to Nibelheim.
So here's the thing. I think I like Final Fantasy when Final Fantasy is stupid and bad. I don't know how I'll react when I play 10 or 9. Or 6
9,
or 9.
I don't know how you're going to feel about 9 then, because I think it's just actually a great story.
I don't know how I will react. I think part of my enjoyment for all these games is, like, riffing and grousing about their stupidity.
Yeah, that's why I'm not sure, but you're going to play 9 in a month
God
or so.
damn it. And then, are you committed? Let's set this straight. 7. I got to finish 7.
Yes.
9.
Yes.
10?
I think 10 or 6 should probably be your next
We
one.
have to decide eventually. Maybe by the end of 7, it'll be like, man, I can't be doing this turn-based bullshit anymore. Oh my god, I need something easy.
I personally am a huge fan of 5, but I know that that's a more controversial stance. 6, I feel like, would appease the most internet folk. Or 10. But I feel like the people who
Or do
say
we go
10
old school
really...
and play something like 4?
4's good as well.
Nah, man, let's play 3 and make 8 myself.
Don't play 3.
I have
10
3.
is my... 10, I feel like, then you get the appreciation for the voice acting, and that sets you up for 10,
or
too.
all aboard the pain train. Let's start the Final Fantasy 13 series.
Oh, yeah, that'll definitely be the way you want to go. I don't know if playing 13 before 10 is better, because I feel like 10, like, the voice acting got better in 13 in a meaningful way, but the gameplay is a lot worse, and so I don't know which one is actually the better one to play first. Also, they kind of have the same leveling system, except 13's is a lot more restrictive. It's weird.
So definitely 7 then 9.
Definitely 7 then 9. Because I'm going
Yeah,
to
I don't know how I'm going to react to... If I play a Final Fantasy game that's just good, I don't know how I'm going to react.
I mean, 9 has its weird moments as well, and
but
it also goes
there's
off the
nothing,
rails.
like, terrible about it.
I don't think so. I don't think there's nothing that compares with, like...
I mean, at least when I get to, like, 6 and
concert.
5, I can talk about how bad the up-res is, or why 4 and 3 have a bad... The fact that they're selling the DS version is crazy.
I mean, the DS version of 4 is the definitive version of 4, so...
But it's...
Same with 3. So those are the good ones. They're good. They're good up-res.
God damn it. Like, why is Lightning Returns in the L section of Steam, but it's not in the F section? Why would you do that?
Because F for fuck you.
I think that's what we're going to end it on, eh? F for fuck you.
Yeah.
All right.
Just basically.
So I'm going to get my fucking mind blown. Wait, no. I just realized something real quick.
What? Okay.
We need to talk about what you think I should be playing. Do I finish Disc 1, or do you think there's too much for me to finish?
So you have Blog 2 already, right?
This is Blog 2, and that was from...
But is 2 in the can? So like
2 is in the
your
can.
Next one would be
I think
3.
I'm going to publish 2 by some point. This is actually something we could probably talk about once the podcast is over.
Sure.
Okay.
So I think you might be able to finish Disc 1 for 3. It depends, like, on if you want to do side quests on Disc 1. I would say no. I don't think you need to.
How about I just...
Disc 1 is long.
Disc 1 is long, man. Why is the first disc so long?
Because there aren't a lot of CG cutscenes in it. They could get more bang for their buck.
Yeah.
But
all right.
I just can't wait till you finish 7 so that we can get to 9, because that game, hopefully in the not too distant future, there might be a thing about me and 9. Who's to say? But
okay.
So thank you for joining me. If you have any feedback for the podcast, any questions,
Do you have any idea what I'm
nonsense,
doing or how I can do a better job?
We'll check in with ZombiePie as he goes on his Odyssey.
Oh my god. There's so much to do. Oh, God.
There is.
Oh, my God. Oh, Disc 2's no slouch either. Holy crap.
Yeah. Disc 3 is really short, though.
Dude. Oh, man. Just...
Some of those are shorter than they seem. Some of those sections are shorter than they seem. But thank you for joining me. If you have feedback, go ahead at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, or deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have a bunch of comment sections, and you can also just hit the little email or the little tweet button on top, and it'll send you to those 2 other contact informations that I mentioned. And thank you, ZP.
Thank you
for joining me. We will check in on your madness in the not-too-distant future. All right, until next time, thank you. Peace!